My guest today, a Razorback and NBA pro basketball player, is such an original that even Microsoft's software Word wants to autocorrect his name. Mr. Joe Kleine, Kleine. Growing up in Slater, Missouri, this giant of a man was recruited in 1982 by Coach Eddie Sutton to come to the small town of Fayetteville, Arkansas, and play for the Razorbacks. As Coach Lou Holtz so famously said about his tenure in Fayetteville, it's not the end of the world, but you can see it from here. It is on the hill, as we Arkansans lovingly call it, that the 7-foot center, number 35, began his momentous career and met the love of his life, Dana. In 1984, while still in college, and before professionals were allowed to compete, Joe played on the U.S. Olympics team where they won a gold medal in men's basketball. Professionally, Kleine has 15 seasons in the NBA, first drafted by the Sacramento Kings, traded to the Boston Celtics, Phoenix Suns, and in 1998, alongside Michael Jordan and Arkansas native Scottie Pippen of the Chicago Bulls, he won a national championship ring. In Joe's illustrious career, he competed in 965 games for 7 franchises with 204 starts, 50 of which were playoff games with 11 starts. Today, Smokey Joe throws his large frame and weight around as the owner of 2 Corky's barbecue restaurants in Central Arkansas. It is with great pleasure and admiration that I welcome to the table the winning athlete with too many awards to mention, the lucky, hardworking gentleman, Mr. Joe Kleine.
Well, thank you. That was a lot.
All true?
Yeah, we'll go with that.
You humbly call yourself lucky. You say that. That's why I put it in the script, because you say, I've just been lucky. That's what all humble people say. But I know that luck is often a result of hard work, and that is what all your teammates say about you. So what's your motivation?
I think I was raised we were raised to work. I mean, to earn, you got out of things what you put into it, and we weren't allowed to sit around. I mean, in the summertime we worked, and we just were always playing ball or swimming or working on a farm.
So you were born in Colorado Springs,
right? But early on we moved everywhere. But
was your dad in the Air Force?
No, he just was a salesman.
Oh.
He was a Marine in World War II. I mean, he got a Purple Heart. He got injured really bad on Saipan, and almost didn't make it. So, we have a big love for patriotism and things of that nature, because again, that's how we were raised, and it wasn't thrown in our face, but we were just, his saying all the time was, God, family, country. Mm-hmm. And that's what's on his grave.
So who's we? Brothers?
3 brothers. Yep.
Are you a fourth brother?
I'm the third. Yeah, Mike, who we lost a couple years ago, he was the oldest, and then there's Peter, myself, and John.
All 7 feet tall?
No. No. Mike and John are 6'6". Pete's runt. He's only 6'2".
Oh my God. So, is your mom tall?
No, not really.
Is your dad tall?
My dad was 6'8". Yeah, everybody on my dad's side of the family. My grandpa was 6'8", 6'9".
Did y'all have a custom kitchen with counters made?
Oh no, are you kidding me? Slater, Missouri. There wasn't a lot of custom going on in Slater, Missouri.
Is your wife tall?
She's about 5'8".
Yeah, that's pretty tall. I'm 5'6". Yeah, that's pretty tall.
Yeah, I mean, she's right.
She puts heels on. She's good.
Yeah. So but she's, she's. I think she's tall for a lady.
I think you're very true. That's right. So, your family all played basketball, or?
We really were into sports. I mean,
all of you just
yeah. Peter wasn't as much. He was the one older than me. I mean, although he was a terrific athlete, he was more artsy into music and drawing. Very good artist. and he just never took to it. And
Did you always know you were tall, or did one day you go, oh wow, I'm tall?
no, I knew. I mean, I was always the tallest in my class, you know, and
How tall were you in the 6th grade? You bet.
I was the tallest. I don't know that,
So-
but I think what it kind of, I always make the joke, kind of my 8th grade going into 9th grade or something. You're kind of in that 8th grade, 10th grade year, somewhere in there. I went from, man, you're tall, to, you know, good Lord, you're tall.
Did you always play basketball, or did that come later?
No, I always played. I just, you know, I was always playing.
So getting ready, I've watched a lot of your highlights getting ready for the show, and so I've seen a lot of your shots and your passes, but I haven't seen very much dribbling, which I think is a really weird use to use for basketball, dribbling. I don't know why. I mean,
Yeah, I don't know where that comes from.
this could be like trickling, dribbling. I'm trickling down the floor, but anyway, dribbling down the floor. Do you dribble very well? Tall guys sometimes have a problem with that.
No, I mean, I could dribble. I could, you know, but
Did they let you bring the ball down ever?
No, never. Because I mean, that wasn't the way. That's not the way it was back then. I mean, you had your kind of position. If you were taller, you went inside and
Stayed there.
Right, and that's kind of how the game was played back then.
Yeah, you were first recruited to play for Notre Dame.
Yep, went there for a year. Loved it.
You did?
Yeah,
So how did
still
you come?
love it. Still love it.
How did you come to play for Arkansas then with Eddie Sutton?
Well,
in a small town. Fayetteville
yeah.
was small back then.
I loved Eddie Sutton. I mean, I didn't know anything about Arkansas except from him, and then there was they were just coming into their own with the triplets, and they were kind of getting notoriety, and they'd always had notoriety in football. So you knew they had a good fan base and stuff down there, and then he started recruiting me, and I just...
And the triplets were Moncrief?
Brewer and Delph, yep.
And so I didn't realize that they already had a legacy going like that, and you were...
Right. No, they had it going. Coach had got it going. I mean, they were a prominent program.
So you fell in love with Sutton when he came to visit you?
Yeah, I did. He was the first coach to come to my house. Back then, it was really different. You couldn't visit a player face to face until after their junior year in high school. So the day after my junior year was over, Coach Sutton came up with his staff and had an in-home visit with me, and I just...
But I thought you said you only played... Maybe it's freshman, sophomore, junior. So you played 1 year or 2 years with...
1 year at Notre Dame.
And
then I transferred. I had to sit out a year. So I went to Notre Dame in the 80-81 year. Mm-hmm. And then I transferred after the 81 season.
And had to sit out.
Sit out the 81-82 season.
They don't have to do that anymore.
Not anymore, no.
I mean, they got portals now. They'll just move you all around.
They're technically supposed to, kind
really?
of. But all you have to do anymore is threaten a lawsuit, and the NCAA goes away. So you don't hear of anybody having to sit out.
You couldn't even go into the pros till you had graduated college back in your day, could you?
You could, but nobody did it.
I didn't think you could. I didn't think it was really even allowed.
No, you could.
You could. So I know that Pat Bradley and David Basil are both our friends, and I know this is a question with you. If you were interviewed by those two guys, they would never ask, but I've got to ask because this is a chick interview. So
should I brace myself?
No, I'm not sure.
I'm looking over at you. You're looking nervous, and so I'm nervous.
He's always nervous.
Yeah, right.
All my children are nervous when I get on the radio.
Fighting
I get
my
on
nails.
stage. They're always nervous. But talk about meeting your wife, Dana, at the Razorbacks.
Well, she followed me around, and, I finally gave in and I gave her an autograph. No.
Oh, my God.
I think that's kind of true. She kind of said that.
No, she did not say that. I can promise you that.
Was it love at first sight?
Man, I don't know. I mean, I liked her. I mean, I knew that. I mean, I wanted to go out with her again. So, I mean, I don't think I knew what love was. So, I mean, I wouldn't say it was love from an ignorance point, from my standpoint. That probably should have been love.
Sure.
Those dumb athletes, they're dense up there. So how did y'all meet?
Carla Hilburn, Tommy Hilburn, who's my partner in Corky's.
Oh.
I knew Carla before I knew Tommy, And Carla was dear friends with Scott Hastings, who was my roommate when I first got there. He was on the basketball team. And I got to know her through Scott, and because Scott's girlfriend then at the time, Judy, was Carla's best friend. So I just kind of was rooming with Scott, got to know Carla, and then I remember one day, I just was looking at Carla and I was like, man, you gotta help a brother out, man. You gotta, you gotta find some. You got all the women running around the Kyle Mega house. I mean, help a dude out, man.
Quit going out with David Basil.
Yeah, I mean, I know David's going out with all of them. I mean, try, see if you can fit me in.
That sounds right from that interview. Yeah.
But so we went on. Dana and Carla were roommates at the time, and so they set me up. We went on a blind date.
That's great. The rest is history. So you and Michael Jordan have a very long history that started even in college. In fact, this game that you played with Michael Jordan in Pine Bluff is often considered one of the greatest victories in the Razorback basketball history. Talk about that game where the Razorbacks beat North Carolina Tar Heels.
Yeah, I mean, in Pine Bluff, 1984 in February, the circumstances were amazing. I mean, we were trying to keep pace with Houston. Houston had Phi Sigma Gamma. They were an incredible team, and we were in a conference race with them, one game behind them. And so
was that the SEC? Were we in
SWC?
Yeah,
Southwest
Conference then.
And so we had 2 games that week. We had to go to Texas A&M and then play at SMU. Both teams were very, very good. We knew we had to win both of those games. And then back then, they always had a Sunday national game on NBC. And so they scheduled our game with North Carolina on that Sunday. So we went Thursday, Saturday, Sunday. And we didn't even really talk about North Carolina, but we escaped a real close game, and College Station won that. And then Saturday afternoon played SMU and played a great game and beat them on their home floor. And then we were going to hop a plane and go to Little Rock and then Pine Bluff the next day, and we couldn't get out because there were tornadoes. So we spent the night in Dallas. Because Coach Sutton just said, we're going back to the hotel. We're not going to sit here in this airport and not know. Mm-hmm. And so we went back, and the next morning we got up early. We stayed at the Anatole, and we got up early and had breakfast, put our uniforms on in Dallas, got dressed and taped and warm-ups and everything, got on the bus and got on our charter and flew to Pine Bluff and got on the bus, then got off the bus, walked in, put our bags down, and
start playing.
Played North Carolina.
On national TV.
Yeah, number 1 team in the country.
Against Michael Jordan.
Yeah, they were undefeated and number 1.
I
think that helped us because we didn't spend all week watching film going, oh my, I mean, we didn't even talk about them till Saturday night. We didn't even, because those weren't the games we had to win. That wasn't.
You were trying to win Houston.
Yeah, we were trying to stay up with Houston.
Which is the other game I think in the same year that you played.
Yeah, Barnhill. Yep.
You played Hakeem
Olajuwon.
Yeah, thanks for saying that for me. From Houston, and it's called. So these 2 games are in the same year, and it's called one of the most memorable games in Arkansas. So one of the greatest victories. And then one of the most memorable games. So talk about that game. This guy, in fact, you got nicknamed the Nightmare after that.
Yeah, that was Dick Enberg back. God rest his soul. We were walking into Houston to play them the first time, and that game was on TV too. Or yeah, I believe that was right. And he was like, it's Akeem the Dream. We have to do this thing before the game. Joe, that we want to do a boxing kind of tail of the tape thing. And I was kind of like, I'm 20 years old. I'm like kind of like, yes sir, yes sir, yes sir, yes sir. And he's like, we got the dream. We need a nickname for you. What's your nickname? And I said, I don't have it. Not Joe.
Yeah.
That's what people call me, Joe. And he goes, well, how about if I call you Nightmare? Would that bother you? And I was like, no. I wasn't going to tell him.
Yeah.
and
Yes, sir.
But everybody in Arkansas hated that.
Well, yeah. It's
And
kinda,
so they had after that game, they had a huge contest to find me a nickname.
What did it come out to be?
Smoking Joe from Slater
Smoking
Mill.
Joe. There you
Oh,
go.
that's
Yeah, and then in the
hilarious.
barbecue business. How did you?
Yeah.
That's pretty clever.
that's
But I mean, it was.
awesome.
Everybody was like, "Why'd you?" I was like, I'm not going to tell Dick Enberg. No, that's pretty stupid, Dick. You can't use that.
I'm speaking today with the NBA retired basketballer, Mr. Joe Kleine, Kleine, and owner of Corky's Barbecue Restaurant in Central Arkansas. So before the what?
You know what? That's a German name. You know how it's pronounced?
How?
Kleine. Do you know what Kleine means in German?
Tall.
Little.
Small.
Oh my God!
I got on an elevator in Houston one time.
I had not put that together, but there's that famous Eine kleine Nacht music, little night music.
I got on an elevator and I heard him speaking German, and I said, "Do you want to guess my name?" And they were like, big, tall, and I pulled out my driver's license and showed it to them, and they thought it was the funniest thing.
I do too.
That's awesome.
Oh, small Joe. Small Smoky Joe. All right. Before the break, we talked about Joe's family a little bit. His dad was a Marine, and his brothers were competitive, and him going to Notre Dame, and then Eddie Sutton recruiting him, and the two huge games that were played during his career as a Razorback fan, and how he met his wife. And now we're going to talk about his NBA career. In 1985, Joe, you graduated, and you're watching the NBA draft, I guess. Where are you when you heard the news, and describe it?
No, I was there. They flew us all to New York, so I was in Madison Square Garden.
Were your parents there?
No, they were in Slater. It was just me. It's nothing like it is now. It was my year was the very first year they had the lottery system, what they have now. It used to be just whoever had the worst record and so on and forth, but they, like so many leagues have established now, they didn't like teams tanking or trying to lose games. It wasn't good for the league, so they instituted a lottery system. And so I was the first draft class that used it.
Are you saying to me that if a team knows they're not going to be great that year, they'll lose a bunch, so they'll get a great player the next year?
Absolutely.
I did not know that strategy, but that's a good
It's
strategy.
called tanking. Because they're not going to make the playoffs, so they're like, if we're going to be bad, let's be real bad.
Yeah.
So we can get, that year the player everybody wanted was Patrick Ewing. He was a great player.
Right.
And so they were trying to prevent those scenarios from happening.
I did not know that. So you were picked 6th in the first round to go to Sacramento Kings. What did you think?
Man, I didn't, I thought I was going to California. Well, Sacramento's not California like you think of it.
Right.
When you think of California, you think of beaches and L.A. and San Francisco, and I mean Sacramento was a farming community in the San Joaquin Valley, and just a great town. Loved it, and it was actually a perfect fit for me because of the type of town it was. It was a very blue collar, smaller town, and I just really loved living there. It was a great fit. The team was awful, but it was a great place to live.
Do you remember who went before you?
Patrick went first.
So you mean Michael Jordan did not go first?
No, he was the year before.
Oh.
He was in the draft the year before. Patrick went first. I think Wayman Tisdale went second from Oklahoma. Then a guy named Benoit Benjamin from Creighton. Fourth was, I think, Xavier McDaniel. Fifth was John Konkak, and then me.
You know what I like about sports guys? Is they all can remember names and dates and games.
That stuff I can.
David Basil can just rattle off people's names.
Now, like I'm not the best at people I see every day, but like if I played with somebody or played against somebody,
Yeah.
35 years ago.
Yeah.
I can remember that. I can't remember a guy I had a conversation with on the way here.
Well, that makes me feel better, because I'm always shocked at these announcers. Like, you're an ESPN announcer, and I'm always shocked at the way they just get together and start talking about all these games and all these names. And I think these guys are so smart.
Yeah, I guess it's just something in your brain. You just
Sticks.
So
what does Dana think now? You're leaving. She go with you?
We weren't married. We got married, but she was. We didn't really know. I mean, we weren't even, when I got drafted, we weren't even engaged. I mean, I was gonna later that summer.
Probably didn't take you long to decide to get engaged.
No, we got engaged in August, I believe. I can't remember. It was that, and then she went off and was a flight attendant for a little while.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and flew for American Airlines. Really loved it. And then we got married the following summer, and after my rookie year in 1986, and then she kind of did flight attendant stuff for about till she got pregnant.
And then she could come out there and see you fly out.
Yeah, she would, when she was not when we weren't married my rookie year, she could
fly out there.
Fly out there.
That's another one of those professions that's changed a lot.
Oh yeah. We were talking the other day. We had a friend in town that was in Boston with us, and we were talking about how the teams used to fly and how she was a flight attendant, and we were laughing about the smoking on the plane.
I know, a little ashtray at every table.
And they had a smoking section.
Yeah, at the back. That's where I sat.
Like it was gonna.
Yeah, matter.
Like it was gonna protect.
Like you weren't gonna get smoke in the front of the plane.
Now it's a federal offense if you tamper with a smoke detector in the bathroom.
Yeah,
I mean, you're going to jail.
But she used to come home like sometimes, and she'd smell like she was out at the club all night long. I mean, it was just. And I remember flying back there, a lot of times, because we flew commercial at first when I first got in the NBA, and the rookie was everything was done by seniority. So if you couldn't get a first class seat, you had to go to the back, and so a lot of times there would be more seats, more room in the smoking section, so I'd go out there and back there and stretch out and stuff and sit.
It's a good thing the seats were bigger back then, because you wouldn't fit in one today. The NBA has changed so much from when you played.
Oh man!
I don't think people realize it, but prior to probably the LA Lakers and Magic Johnson era, maybe around that time, it was not.
No, it was dying.
Yes.
Before Bird and Magic, when they got drafted, they kind of saved the NBA.
Did you watch The Winning?
I haven't. No, I didn't. I haven't watched that. I've seen bits and pieces. I mean, what's funny about that is, it's a docudrama.
It's not completely.
And
it
so
tells you
everybody's
right
like, they make Jerry West look so bad. Was Jerry West? And I was like, first of all, this is not a documentary.
Right.
I mean, they're making Jerry West look bad to add flavor to the, so.
You need an antagonist. Yeah.
So I haven't.
It's not that good.
Basil wants me to.
It's okay, but it's not that good.
He loved it, so he's like.
I'll tell you what's good: The Last Dance.
No.
Were you in The Last Dance?
Yeah.
Oh, I got to go watch it again. I just loved it.
No,
how accurate was it?
Very.
So for our listeners, The Winning is a docudrama on I guess Netflix.
Yeah.
And it's all about the Lakers and Magic, and it's a docudrama, and it says right there on the top, not exactly accurate. Because my husband would say, he was like that. I said, honey, it's a movie. He'd be like, oh yeah, I keep forgetting. And then The Last Dance, though, is a real documentary.
It was very well done.
It's very.
I was very skeptical, and when they came to interview me, I didn't really know what was going on. This guy kept emailing me and calling me, kind of like you did. And
you're welcome.
I'm kidding.
No, he's not.
And and I was like, yeah, come interview. I mean, but I was thinking it's going to be like Steve Sullivan pulling up and dropping a tripod and putting a mic on me in 15 minutes. And they showed up at Corky's, and there was like 5 dudes, and I was like kind of looking at them, they had a lighting guy, and they had a sound guy, and so finally I looked at him. I said, "No, okay, what is this for?" Because I was like,
Who
did I
did
get
do
myself
it? I can't
into?
remember. Who produced it? I can't remember.
But they were like, "This is a 10-part kind of." He said it's 30 for 30, but not 30 for 30. It's a drama on the last season of the Bulls, and it's a 10-part. And I was kind of like, "Oh, okay."
We call that a docu-series.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so,
Man, it was good.
Yeah, and they started asking me questions, and a lot of stuff they were asking me. I was in my mind, I'm going like, how'd you know that? How'd you,
Who you been talking to?
Yeah.
They had done their research.
They did a great job.
So in '92, so I'm going to tell our listeners, we kind of touched on it. You went out to Sacramento, and you had been used to winning. You had been, as we just talked about, you'd been winning as a Razorback and having some of the best games the Razorbacks ever had. And now you go out there to Sacramento, first round pick. You think you're a boy in the NBA, but your team is no good.
Well, our first year, we had a pretty good year, but we started off really poorly, and then like from January 1st to the end of the year, we had like the third best record in the league. I mean, we really kind of started clicking.
That was the first year?
Yeah, and we made the playoffs. We lost to Houston in a 5-game series to.
Did you play that guy, the Dream?
Yeah.
Oh, how funny!
Yeah, and
just love that.
And then that summer they traded everybody, and it was
why?
Great question. and what we got back, we traded like three guys to get one guy, and the one guy we got back, he was a great guy, but he
couldn't perform.
He wasn't that type of player. He wasn't that good of a player. He wasn't a franchise type player, which is what they thought he was going to be. Mm-hmm. And so just playing terrible, doing bad, fire the coach, hire a coach, fire coach, hire a coach. So I think I had 4 coaches in 3.5 years.
Oh.
And probably 40 different teammates. It was.
You were happy when the Boston Celtics, when they traded you?
I mean, I wasn't happy. I liked Sacramento. It was a great town, and you just kind of wanted to make it work. You felt like but it wasn't going to work there, and I was glad to go somewhere where.
Did they trade you?
It was mutual.
It's a mutual, and it was '92, and your son was born. What did
89. 89.
Was that the year your son was born?
My son was born the same half hour I got traded.
Whoa.
I was in the labor room, and they
called you on the phone.
Yeah, my wife.
Big changes going on in your life right now.
Back then, there was none of this.
Oh, right.
So none of these cell phones, and so we thought we were going to get traded the night before, and Dana was, she was ready to burst. It was any time, and I thought we were going to be traded. The rumor was we were going to get traded to L.A. Clippers, which is as bad a team as the Kings, and it's in L.A. and so my wife's upset and everything, and they called me that night and said, "Hey, nothing's going to happen. I mean, everything's." So we were kind of relieved, and the next morning, she's ready to go. We go to the hospital very early in the morning. You'll love this. The anesthesiologists are on strike. Yeah, so we did the
natural, all natural,
old-fashioned.
Yeah, and
she didn't love that.
No, she did not. And about Daniel's coming, and nurse walks in and pops her head in there and goes, "You have a very, very urgent phone call that you have to take. It's from Jerry Reynolds, who's the coach of the Kings." And I was like,
does he know where I am right now?
Yeah. But there were some things in my contract, incentive-wise, that I had to kind of waive for the trade to happen.
Oh.
So I had to give approval for that. And so, and I did gladly. And then, walked back in, and Daniel was born, and, 36 hours later, I was like, "See y'all later."
Oh my gosh!
Yeah,
but your wife's just so understanding.
She was still in the hospital. She came home without me. I had to go.
Oh.
Yeah, it was a great day, but it was a crappy day.
So
too.
was he born in California? I guess.
Yeah, Sacramento. Yep.
About that same time, well, I think it was when you were playing for the Boston Celtics that they decided to play for. Is that when they decided to do the Olympics?
After '88, because in '88 we lost. What had happened with the Olympics is that, we always dominated. Well, basketball's growing internationally, and now all of a sudden you have these players coming over, Marshallonis, Arvydas Sabonis, Tony Kukoc, these guys coming from other countries and playing for pro teams.
In the Olympics?
No, playing for pro teams. But then in 1988, so people started to become more familiar with these pro players and started gaining respect. Like, they were great NBA players. Well, now all of a sudden we go over, take our band of college players over there. We play against a team full of
pros,
and it had always been like that. But now people recognized. Before you didn't know who they were because they didn't play in the NBA. They were never over here. So you were like, Ferdinand Martin, who played for Spain for years and was a great player. Nobody in the United States had a clue who that guy is. Oscar Schmidt, who played for Brazil, unbelievable player. Nobody knew who he was,
Yeah.
But now you got Drazen Petrovic and Tony Kukoc, and he plays for the Nets. He plays for the Blazers. And so they drum us. And now all of a sudden everybody's like, well, that's not fair.
So the Olympics was always amateurs playing, right?
So in '88 we won the bronze and got beat by, I believe it was Lithuania or the Soviet Union. I can't remember, but they were full of
pros.
They were pros that people knew were pros. And so that kind of, everybody was like, well, this can't, we're not going to let this happen anymore.
Well, that was very controversial to go from amateurs to pros in the Olympics because the United States had always kind of had a...
Well, no, if they would have won the gold that year, it would have never happened. We got beat and we got our feelings hurt and
you said we're
thought
going
we were being cheated, and so we were like, we're going to take our pros over there.
So let's see let's see
the good old American way.
Yeah.
Who
was in the pros game? I'm trying to think who was in the
Dream Team.
The Dream Team
in '92. That was that was Karl Malone, Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, David Robinson, Patrick Ewing, Chris Mullin, Larry Bird, Magic Johnson. Good grief.
So did you get invited?
Oh, no, I wasn't.
Were
I
you
wasn't
just
near.
burned?
No, I wasn't good enough.
I don't agree with that because I've also watched.
You're flattering me, but
I'll tell you why. You have always said about yourself. Let me see what is often said about you. Hold it. I've got it right here. I like this quote from a former Razorback teammate, Darrell Walker. Some guys can never figure out what their job is in the NBA. Joe figured it out. And Darrell Walker was your teammate.
Yep.
At the Razorbacks. I'm not going to, he says about you, that you had decided, I'm not going to average 20 points a game. My job is to come in and make open shots if I get them, make my free throws, rebound the ball, protect the rim, and guard my man. Darrell went on to say, that's what Joe did for 15 years, and that's why teams kept wanting him on their roster. Plus, he was a good teammate and a good guy to have in the locker room. Well, if you watch the Dream Team and how hard they struggled with so many egos, they had a problem. And they didn't think they were going to be able to actually perform. Of course, they did eventually get it together.
They were so much better than everybody else.
But they needed somebody like you that could check their ego. You would have been a great compliment to their group, I think.
You flatter me. Thank you.
No, I really think so.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So eventually you stayed with the Boston Celtics and had a great year.
Yeah, for almost 5 years. Yeah.
And then this kills me. So you go to the
Phoenix Suns.
Huh?
Phoenix.
You go to the Phoenix Suns, and you stayed there 3 years. You stayed everywhere about 3 years.
I was there, right.
3 to 5 years.
Yeah.
And then
But towards the end, I started hopping around like a used car salesman. I was going everywhere. I was having a cup of coffee everywhere.
Well, you probably wish you'd had gone ahead and retired. You were obviously tired of the game.
It did. because, I mean, I wasn't tired of the game. I was kind of tired of moving because, I mean, except for when I got traded to New Jersey, which was in the middle of the year was about 10 weeks away from being over. New Jersey wasn't going to make the playoffs, and I was like, and when I got traded to the Lakers right before I got traded to New Jersey from Phoenix, I was, it's just the kids were in school and just they had to stay there. I mean, that was just, there was no way around that. And so I think, and then after New Jersey is when I went to the Bulls, and we all went up there together, and that was a great year and a lot of fun living there. It was a good city, and then came back, and the Bulls wanted me to stay another year, but Michael and them were gone, and I didn't want to deal with that, and so came back, and we had that's when we had an NBA strike for about half the year, and I ended up playing for Phoenix again for like a half a year, and then my last year, I thought I was going to stay in Phoenix. They said they wanted me to stay, and I kept waiting around for them, and Portland called me, and I was like, all right, I'm gone. Went to Portland and had a great time up there. Just another great city, and the kids and everybody went up there and going to school. But at that point, I was in my 15th year, and just it was a young man's game,
right?
And just getting warmed up for practice, getting stretched out, trying to stay loose on the bench, just everything. It just as you age, everything gets harder.
Mm-hmm.
And I just couldn't play anymore. I couldn't play like I wanted to play, and teams wanted me to stick around and basically, be a babysitter. But when I retired, I had teams want me to come back, and we'd already moved here, and my kids were in school, and I was like, I'm done, guys. I'm done, and just. But I knew the role I would play, and I wasn't quite ready to just kind of sit on the bench and get a check and babysit everybody.
Yeah, right. Playing past your prime kind of hurts your averages.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, I would play, like when they needed me, I'd play 4 or 5 games in a row and have, 15 points a game, 10 points a game. And then when the guy got healthy again, I was...
And that was your kind of
that was my role.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, that, and to Daryl, guys who stick around the NBA, they figure out what their role is. And they figure out, what? This is a really good job. This is a really good, really well-paying job that's going to
Except you have to move all the time.
Yeah, but you got to be able to do a lot of good things for your family. And so, the smart ones figure out, everybody wants to be an NBA All-Star. Everybody goes in the NBA thinking, I'm going to be the next this and next that. Well, everybody can't be that. And so you better find your niche. It's like in any job, anything. You better find what you're good at and what can keep you sticking around and getting paid for as long as you can. And the smart ones do that.
So you were lucky enough to spend a year with the Chicago Bulls and play the year that Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen played their last year.
Yep.
What the whole movie The Last Dance is about. You are part of that year.
Yep.
How tell us how exciting that had to be.
No, it was I'd been around some really good players now. I'd been in the locker room with Larry Bird, Kevin McHale, Robert Parrish, Dennis Johnson, Charles Barkley, Dan Marley, A.C. Green, Shaq, Kobe, Jason Kidd. I mean, I've been with some dudes now, but that was like the Beatles. I mean, it was ridiculous. I mean, it was like traveling with the Beatles. It's just you can't.
Their star quality.
Yeah, just everywhere we went, it was just didn't matter what time we pulled up to the hotel. Sometimes it was 2 or 3 in the morning in Milwaukee in January. Be 400 or 500 people out there just so they could watch Michael walk into and they'd be asking him for an autograph. It was like But you know, it was just.
But you didn't know that they were having when you went there. You didn't know they were having trouble with.
You know, I didn't. I thought it was like, man, this is gonna. And they, you know, you got in there real quick. There was a lot of animosity
Between the owner and Phil Jackson, the coach.
Yeah, Jerry Krause, who was the general manager, but Jerry Krause basically did what the owner told him to do. So I mean,
and why was that owner so? Why were they so irritable? They had this great winning team.
Well, it's what it always comes down to, money.
Oh.
They didn't. When Michael and Scotty signed contracts, the NBA pay was going nuts year to year. I mean, it was just
every year
escalating. You know, one year it would be like, oh my gosh, and then it was just starting to get to where now it's incredible.
Yeah, Jordan's a billionaire.
Right. Yeah, but I mean, it was just getting to that. Well, they wouldn't these guys signed 4 or 5 year contracts. Well, their contracts after 1 year were obsolete for what they did. I mean, they were 2 of the best players in the league, and they were paid around 50th.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah, and they wouldn't, and the Bulls would not renegotiate. Bulls would not redo it. They said, you signed this, we're not. And so that happened before I got there, and so that just started the animosity.
So they had so the players had a 5-year contract, but they wanted to renegotiate the contract because they were doing so good.
Yeah,
and Krause did not, and the owner did not.
And it was idiotic. But
yeah.
Jerry Krause caught the brunt of that.
Sure.
But he was doing, I'm sure he went to the owner and said, look, they want to redo their deal. And he's like, I'm not redoing their deal. And so, and he looked at Krause and said, you deal with it. So Krause became the guy that took all the crap. And, Reinsdorf kind of just sat back there and, and I knew Jerry Krause, and he was a really good guy and a good friend of mine. And he took a lot of crap that wasn't his doing. In my opinion.
Well, that's
and
nice.
so, but it was there. Like the tension was. I mean, it was real.
Well, everybody needs to go watch The Last Dance. It's good. So before the break, the first break, we talked about your family and your life growing up, and then we talked about college, and then we talked about the NBA and how exciting it was, the era you played in. The NBA was growing so much, and it was hard to ever quit, even if you wanted to retire or felt like you were getting too old to play. You just couldn't because, man, it's exciting time when you were there. It's changed so much. Yeah. So, and you also mentioned this. You shared the court with some legends, Larry Bird, who I think is a friend of yours, Charles Barkley, who I think is a friend of yours, Kobe Bryant, Shaquille O'Neal, Shaq, Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, Dennis Rodman. And you didn't play with Magic Johnson, but you played against him, so you knew him. So I like games. You like games. So this is the game.
Oh boy.
he's scared. This is a one word. You have to give me one word for each player when I tell it to you. I did this with Ernie Dumas. He had to interview. He was a reporter who interviewed all the past governors for like 6 or 7 governors.
From Rockefeller up until Beebe.
Oh my.
Huckabee. No, Beebe. I think it was Beebe.
I don't know, but it was fun.
Yeah, he had an opinion about every single one.
So you will too.
Yeah, it was fabulous.
So here's your one-word game. Larry Bird.
Country.
Love that.
That's not what I thought you said.
It's like me.
That's why
Yeah,
y'all
man.
like each other so much. Charles Barkley.
Genuine.
Really? He is funny and genuine.
Yeah. I only had one word.
That's
I
right.
wanted to say funny, but I couldn't.
That's what I thought you'd say. Kobe Bryant.
Young. When I knew him, when I was around him, he was 17.
Oh,
so
my
he
Lord,
was,
yeah.
He was a pup.
Yeah.
You need to raise him. I said everybody's got the heart of a teacher that comes in here.
Yeah.
Shaq.
Again, I'm trying
Don't
to think
say
of
it.
one word. No, I mean, surprised. He
Surprising?
surprised me when I played with him. Because I thought he was going to be, a real diva,
Yeah.
kind of, and he was just the opposite. He was a good dude.
Boy, he was big. I bet
Oh,
you
yeah.
two guys
No.
squaring off on each other.
I know I'm big.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, nothing like him. It was
Wow.
it was surreal to be around him and play against him. It was nothing you could do.
Nothing you could do.
I mean, you were at his mercy.
Michael Jordan.
Goat.
What'd you say?
Goat.
Goat.
Greatest of all time.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. For
GOAT.
sure. Oh, yeah. Scottie Pippen.
Arkansas.
Dennis Rodman.
Crazy. I was trying to think of a nicer word than crazy, but he was harmless, but you know, the phrase, that guy walks to the beat of his own drum, that is 100% made for Dennis Rodman.
I love that.
Magic Johnson.
Great.
He is?
Yeah, I think he's the most underrated player ever to play in the NBA.
You do?
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's probably because he's so friendly and likable and stuff that...
I mean, he went to the NBA Finals, I want to say 8 out of 10 years in a row. Now, it may not be that much, but, I mean, he won 5 NBA championships. I mean, his resume and what he did is right up there with Michael's. But you never hear anybody talk about it.
And the other thing about him is he was kind of the tipping point where NBA became fun to watch.
Yeah.
Prior to him,
No, he and Larry saved the NBA.
he smiled. I mean, he was so likable.
I remember watching when Magic, his rookie year, played Philadelphia, and I believe it was in 1980. I was a senior in high school. You could not watch that game live. It was tape delayed. CBS tape delayed the NBA Finals till after the news. Nobody watched it. I remember sitting there, and the announcer sports guy at 10 o'clock would go, "Okay, I'm getting ready to give the score of the Sixers and whatever Trailblazer game. If you're going to watch it after the newscast, I'd suggest you
Turn it off.
Turn down or look away." I swear to God.
Weird. That's
It wasn't
different
even
time.
It wasn't even broadcast live.
Yeah.
The NBA was not on live TV.
Well, as soon as they
The
started...
finals, not you can imagine. You can imagine what a game in January. I mean, it was like you either went to the game or you didn't watch it.
Mm-hmm.
the Chicago... Oh, okay, this is a coach, Phil Jackson, from the Bulls.
Zen. We were always doing yoga, and he was burning sage. Have you ever smelled sage?
Oh,
Yeah.
That's
It
hilarious.
smells like marijuana.
Yeah.
And
A little bit.
and he was my first game with the Bulls. He walked through the locker room with
Oh,
sage.
and Sage, the rocker room.
Right. And I was sitting there, and he had just walked through there when I got in there, and Steve Kerr and all these guys, they were kind of like watching me. And I mean, I was sitting there, and I was like, somebody's in here smoking marijuana. I
That's
said, this
so
is
funny.
what the hell's going on here, And I was like looking around, going back in the shower, and they were all kind of chuckling. And I was like, "Fellas, you don't smell that? What are you talking about, Joe?" And I was like, "Somebody's in here smoking marijuana." And then right then and there, Phil comes walking through the locker room again with
Smoking with sage.
got
Yeah.
sage that he gets from South, So
Is he getting rid of demons and stuff?
bad spirits.
Bad spirits. Oh, I love that. Who would have ever thought that? How about Coach Eddie Sutton from the Razorbacks from your youth?
Father.
Oh, nice. And I got to ask you, because we did not talk about this, but Bobby Knight was the coach when you played in the Olympics and
Yeah.
you won a gold medal. Bobby Knight, give me a word for him.
Intense.
Oh, so this is what I think of when I think of Bobby Knight. This is when I first started playing basketball. He threw
A chair.
a chair. I was watching that game when he threw that chair
Yeah.
across there, and I was like, okay, I'm watching from now on out.
Yeah.
He was crazy.
The
And
drama.
Did you go when he was in Little Rock and came to talk to parents and children?
I wasn't here. No, I heard about it though.
Cussed like a damn sailor.
Yeah.
Where everybody was like, well, that was real inspiring for the children and their parents.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember Wally Hall. Wally Hall couldn't stand him because Wally Hall never really liked him. I guess Wally Hall wrote kind of an article about him that day, and then he chastised Wally in that same speech. So I always chuckle when I sit around. Wally and I are having a beer or something. I was like, man, Bobby Knight was such a good guy, and it just it starts it going right there.
It's the end of your career. You've retired. What did you and Dana think you were going to come do? And why did you pick Little Rock when you're from Missouri?
We when we first got married, we got married in Dallas. She was from Dallas, and this is in '86. And we always, back early on, we were like, we're coming back to Dallas. What a cool city,
Mm-hmm.
And then Dallas just kept getting bigger and bigger, and we'd go back to see our parents, and it's like, yeah, I don't need any of this. And when I got traded to Boston, in Sacramento, we had a house in Sacramento, and we went up to Boston and looked around for a little bit, and we couldn't, the difference in the markets was, it was, we had $350,000. We thought we were going to get us a mansion. And
Right, yeah.
they were showing us apartments.
Yeah. Not in Boston.
And so we kind of said, you know what, and we weren't going to, we liked Boston, but we weren't going to live there because all our family and everybody was back this way. So we said, you know what, let's go to Little Rock for the summer. And we came back here. We bought a house and just kind of have a base. We wanted to have a base and just really enjoyed it and liked it. And so our kids were really young, so they weren't in school yet. So we didn't have to be back in Boston until October when practice started. So our summers were longer. And so we would just come back here in the summer and just kind of got entrenched into the community a little bit. And then, in 1996, we sold our house here when we went to Phoenix because our kids were going to school and housing was much more affordable there. We got a nice house there, and so we were from 92 to about 2000. We had a house in Phoenix, or 93, and but we started Corky's in 96, and so it was.
When did you retire?
2000. So when I retired.
So you started Corky's before you retired?
Yeah.
I had no idea.
Yeah. And so when we retired, it was kind of like, we like it there. And I had a lot of opportunities to go into NBA coaching. But I know that lifestyle. And it's just like you're going to be somewhere 2 years, and then you're going to be somewhere 2 years. You're hired to be fired. And so that didn't really appeal to me at that time. And so we had Corky's here, and it was like, hey, we'll come back here and start working there and figure it out.
So Corky's is a franchise from Memphis.
Out of Memphis, yes.
Did you know that guy before? Or how'd you pick Corky's?
I'd never heard of Corky's.
How'd you pick it?
Tommy,
your friend.
My friend Tommy.
So he's here running it.
Carla, he started Backyard Burgers here.
Oh, really?
And then Backyard Burgers went corporate, and so they bought him out. And so he got it. He really did well with it, and so he wanted to do something else. And so he went over and looked at Corky's, and we found the pizza land out there in West Little Rock, and he approached me about it, and I knew it would be successful because I knew him. I'd never heard of Corky's in my life.
Well, the food's great.
I didn't know. When he said Corky's, I didn't know what the heck he was talking about. I was like, what are you talking about? I was like, yeah,
it's my favorite barbecue in the city.
Well, thank you. And it just kind of went from there.
You like the franchise model, business model?
I like our franchise model because I chuckle when they say we're a franchise because
It doesn't feel like it.
no, we're mom and pop. I mean, we're putting out, like, you see me today.
Oh,
I
I see you there all the time.
Yeah, and
If you go in there, you're in there.
Our power's out today, and trying to, so it's, I'm not calling up corporate and saying, hey, we're entrenched in the community, and so we're a franchise, I think, by name only.
Yeah. I interviewed a banker one time and asked him if you were going to get into a business, what kind of a business you should get into. And he said franchises. He said they're great. They're great business models. Of course, you got to get a good one like you've got. You've got the perfect one.
It really helped us, I think especially when we, the early years, because there was, I didn't recognize it, but I wasn't living here all the time. So so it had that instant, people in Little
knowledge.
Little Rock had been to Corky's and
Oh, I
Memphis.
see.
And so it kind of gave us a little
Name recognition.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, you seem a lot. What do you think your business theory is? Do you think you're a micromanager or a?
No, I like to give people. Now, I believe if you're going to be a good boss, you have, especially in our business, you can't just sit back in the office and point and say, you need to do this, and you have to show. You have to work, I mean, there's nothing in Corky's I haven't done. Nothing. I mean, I've done the bathrooms. I've cleaned the grease trap. I mean, there's been spills on the back dock that are absolutely gross, and guess who's doing it? And so, I mean, I think you have to show that so that it's like, my thing is like, look, this is, people have their jobs and their things that they're accountable for, and you have to show that, you're not just saying you do this, that you do it too. And I think that's a good way to lead. I don't want to do it all the time because that's what I'm paying you for.
Right.
But no job is beneath me, and I think that sets a very good. When you show that, I think it sets a very good tone to everybody that works for you.
I agree, because when you come out to your business, or when you call your business, or when you go to your website, visit your website, there is pride in everybody you talk to on the phone. There is pride in everybody that waits on you at the table. The website is up to date, looks good. You can tell that y'all are hands-on. So I think it really does reflect all the way out from what you just said, all the way out to the patrons. I think they see that very, very well. What do you think about Coach Eric Musselman?
I love it.
Don't you love him?
I think it was just it was a great hire. He's a guy that is a basketball junkie. He's basketball 24/7. His hobby is probably basketball. I mean, he's constantly recruiting. He's constantly.
And I think his wife likes it.
Yeah, and websites and funny things. I mean, he's very in touch with the youth of today. That's how you get them. Instagram, TikTok, and I mean, he's out there seeing them and talking to them and, making offers to kids when they're sophomores in high school. And,
Did you know his dad?
His dad was in Portland when I was there, yeah.
Was he a coach?
Yeah, his dad was a coach of the Minnesota Timberwolves when I was in the league for a long time.
So what'd you think of him?
I didn't know him. He was a very gruff, hard-nosed, old school guy. He was very old school, very, Bobby Knight-ish. Very, he was definitely old school guy and very, basketball 24/7.
Well, you can tell when Eric is upset. He's so intense about everything. So you can see maybe that little bit of his dad come out, because sometimes he's like, "Rah, rah, rah," in that guy's face. And I'm like, I don't know what he just said to him, but it scared me. But he loves the game so much.
Yeah. No, he just...
He understands it so well.
And he understands, the biggest thing in college right now is you got to recruit. I mean, if you have to recruit, and it's hard. It's I did it at Little Rock, and it's just hard.
It's not your favorite part, probably.
No. It's nobody who coaches. If they sit there and tell you we love recruiting, it's like, okay, whatever. Yeah, I mean, you're selling. It's being a salesman. You're selling. And your audience is a 17 to 19-year-old kid who sometimes could really care less that you're talking to them.
So how do I am always, I like, of all of football and basketball, I like college because I'm shocked at these young adults, not even adults hardly, that are on the national stage making big decisions with so much pressure. How do those kids deal with that?
Yeah, I mean, I had to do it, but it wasn't.
How
like
did you deal with it? Were
well,
you just naive?
I remember. I mean, it was difficult, because you're having to talk to people like, Norm Stewart, the head of Missouri, Joe B. Hall, the head coach at Kentucky, and you're having to tell them no. Mm-hmm. And my dad was an old school guy who was like, you're going to talk to them, and you're going to tell them. You're going to be respectful to them, and I'm not going to tell them. The coach is not going to tell them. You're going to be a man about this, and you're going to call them up, and you're going to tell them, hey, I'm going to Notre Dame.
But then when you get ready to go out and play, and you're going to be on TV that day, how do you get the kahunas to get out there and just give it its all in front of so many people?
Well, I think it's kind of a gradual, you kind of, as you're growing up in high school, you just kind of gradually morph into that. So, you don't, you start, and you play in front of 1,000 people in high school or a packed little gym, and that's a big deal. And then you go to the state playoffs, and then you go to college, and that's kind of a minute where it's like, whoa, this is, and then it just, then you're on TV, and then it just kind of evolves, and then after you do it for a little while, you're just playing ball, man. You're just going out there, and it's like you're able to kind of
practice.
I was able to kind of just, you were aware of the crowd, you were aware of the enormity of the game, or you were aware that it was on TV, but you just.
Did the crowd ever cheer?
Ball.
They always act like, sometimes you'll see players do like this, like get the crowd into it. Does that help?
Oh yeah, no, playing at home is huge because you have encouragement. So
when you're on the road and there's nobody encouraging you.
No, but that is also fun because it's just you and the guys. You're standing in the tunnel before you go out, and you're going to get booed and everything, and it's just you guys all huddle up, and you kind of like, and it's the ultimate, us against the world feeling. Mm-hmm. Let's go do this. And you go, all right, let's go, and we go running out the tunnel, and everybody just starts giving it to you, and it's just like, you're kind of looking at each other going, this is awesome. It's just us and against all, and so it's, those are things you miss, the locker room, and, being able to play is fun, but those are the things you really miss is, being with your fraternity of guys in the locker room or right before you run out on the court, the guys that you do everything every day with, and you become good friends with them, and you just, it's us against the world kind of thing. That's the thing that you miss more than anything.
You still stay in touch with anybody?
Oh yeah.
Are you still doing ESPN commentary much?
Yeah, I did. This is, everybody asks me all the time, and I go, this is how I answer. I'm on a year-to-year contract, so, and that's fine. I mean, and I started off, the whole thing started off by Jimmy Dykes calling me one day. It was Mike Anderson's last game in Bud Walton Arena, and it was against Alabama, and the guy doing the color couldn't get in, and they couldn't. They were like, do you know anybody that can do this game in Fayetteville? And Jimmy was gone. He wasn't in Fayetteville. He goes, yeah. He goes, let me call my buddy. And so he called me that morning. He was like, hey, what are you doing? I was like, I'm going to Corky's. What do you think I'm doing? And he's like, hey, ESPN needs you to get in a car and
drive up,
and you're going to do the ESPN game at 3 o'clock against Alabama. I said, Jimmy, I don't even know who the coach of Alabama is. I didn't know anybody. And so I got my son, Will, and I said, let's go. And I started calling people, because I knew all about Arkansas. That was easy. Mm-hmm. And then I did that game, and that was great. And then the next day they kind of put me on. Next year I had like 8 games, but I wasn't under contract. I was kind of what do you call it?
On call, kind of?
Yeah, like I can't remember the name of it, but like if somebody couldn't make it or somebody got sick, I would go fill in for them. So I did it for I did 8 games, and then this past year, I think I've done it. I can't remember if it was this past year or the year before. They said, we're going to put you under contract for 12 games that we're going to schedule you and create. And then I did 16 last year.
No, that's a lot.
And so, and since all this has been going on, we have all that in-home studio stuff.
Right.
And so I tell everybody, they say, are you going to do it next year? And I said, well, they have not asked for their equipment back, so
right.
I think I am. I don't have a contract, but they haven't, they haven't asked for anything back. So
Sure.
I mean,
do you like it?
I do. I like it. Keeps you around the game.
Yeah.
Keeps you talking with coaches and stuff, and it's fun. I mean, it's fun. I like being a part of it. And doing like 16 or so games, I'm not having to travel a ton.
Yeah.
It's about one game a week.
Mm-hmm.
And so I kind of like that too.
Yeah. And they're probably in Fayetteville, aren't they?
No.
They're all over. It's SECs, wherever they send you
But
to.
I don't know how it's going to be next year, but some of them you're at your house.
I was going to say, you have home recording equipment? Yeah.
I mean, it's basically doing a Zoom call.
Mm-hmm.
But
I don't like that as much, though.
The thing you like about it you hate it as not being there because you don't feel
the energy.
Yeah, you don't have the energy, so you got to kind of keep telling yourself to get fired up as you're sitting in your living room by yourself.
Mm-hmm.
But it's the thing that's nice is when the game's over, you shut your computer in your home. You're not trying to figure out how to get home from Starkville or Baton Rouge or Oxford or whatever. You're done.
Yeah, that's
I
pretty
have
sweet.
so enjoyed
Thank
talking
you.
to
I
you.
have too, Kerry. It's been great.
It's so fun. You've had such a great career. So I brought you a desk set. It's the
All
U.S.
right.
flag, the Arkansas flag, the Missouri flag, and the Colorado flag where you were born.
Well,
I should have
thank
brought
you.
you a Notre Dame, Indiana flag. I didn't think
awesome.
about
Could
it.
have done Indiana, Arizona, Massachusetts,
California, Boston,
Yeah.
Chicago.
It sounded like trying to do my tax return when I played in the NBA. I had to file in every state.
Oh,
it was
no.
unbelievable.
I never thought about that. All right. Thanks again.
You're welcome. Enjoyed it very much.
I'm eating at Corky's on Friday. Your guys deliver. I want to tell everybody Corky's delivers. So if you're having a party, order it online. His guys are so helpful. And then for $20, they'll bring it to you right before the party starts, and it's warm. It's a great idea.
Heck yeah.
All right. In closing, to our listeners, I want to say thank you for spending time with us. We hope you've heard or learned something that's very inspiring or enlightening, and that whatever it is, will help you up your business, your independence, or your life. I'm Kerry McCoy, and I'll see you next time on Up in Your Business. Until then, be brave and keep it up.
If you liked this video, subscribe to our YouTube channel by clicking on the picture of Kerry's face in the center of the screen. For more of Kerry's interviews, click either video on the right of the screen. And as always, thank you for watching.